6:30, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. My name is Jeanette Ricketts, and I am the program manager for the Executive MBA program and project management. And I just want to welcome you all here to UT Dallas tonight. If you have any questions about the program, we have an MBA and an MS in project management. Feel free to visit our webpage or come see us in the office. We'll be happy to answer any questions that you have. And I have the privilege tonight of introducing our moderator, David Adams. He is the Vice President for Public Relations for PMI Dallas Toastmasters Club and has been involved with Toastmasters since 2013. David also has been a member of the PMI Dallas chapter since 2006, the same year he got his PMP certification. Currently, David is the Chief Creative Officer of the new startup multimedia solution business, Adams Images, leveraging digital marketing and social media to deliver photography and videography products and services for commercial and personal project solutions. So at this moment, we'd like to welcome David.
Thank you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this session on the strategic skills in public speaking to improve project management effectiveness. We as project managers know how important it is to engage with our key stakeholders, with our project team, and just about everyone else, because if you don't do that right, it just doesn't work. And we have an excellent panel tonight, and I'll have them introduce themselves, who are both project management professionals. They have their PMP certification, as well as members of Toastmasters. So we'll start with May Lynn.
Good evening, everyone. My name is May. I'm currently the project manager for City of Plano. I have been Toastmaster for 5 years, since 2014. I have served district level of the leadership team. Currently, I'm the president of PNI Dallas chapter. Have most of the PNI certification, PMP, PNI ACP, PBA, then Discipline Agile.
Good evening, my name is Chuck Kerby. I'm current president of PMI Dallas Toastmasters. And do the math, I've been a member of Toastmasters, this is my 37th year. So I joined when I was 5, no, just kidding. But Toastmasters has meant a lot to me, and I'm anxious to share it with you this evening. I'm PMP certified, Green Belt, certified Scrum Master, certified product owner, and Scaled Agile training. So with that, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Grettel Molina. I am originally from Costa Rica. I am a civil engineer and I started working as a project manager over there. Then I moved to the US and I started feeling like I was enclosed and I could not communicate well. I joined PMI Dallas chapter where I saw that they had a Toastmasters Club. I joined 3 years ago. And I love it. It's a wonderful club, and it has a lot of opportunities to network. I'm currently the VP of membership, so if you want to join, talk to me after the panel. So, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mohun Sundar. I am currently been in Toastmasters for about 6 years right now. I started in 2014. Had a great opportunity to be more exclusive to PMI Dallas Toastmasters during that time. I've served as the VP of membership as well as the president. And currently I'm having the great opportunity to serve as the area director for a number of corporate Richardson clubs in the local area here. So again, had a great opportunity and great experience. And also I've been part of PMI, the Dallas chapter, for that period of time. And again, I'm just really happy to be here, and hopefully we have a good conversation on project management and, more importantly, public speaking as it relates to project management.
Hello, everyone. I am Yalonda Harris. I am from Louisiana. I have been with the Dallas Project Management Institute since 2014. I joined the Toastmasters PMI chapter in 2016. I have served 2 terms as club secretary and also as an area director. I am looking forward to sharing thoughts with you this evening. I'm also seeking opportunities in project management or consulting with small firms, so I'm looking forward to chatting with you all.
So thank you very much. So as your moderator, I'm going to ask a few questions, and then I'll wander around the crowd and have you ask some questions. So much like a presidential debate, we're going to try to get some honest answers in a concise time period. And these are Toastmasters, so hopefully they'll get up to that. So the first question I have is, how are project management and public speaking connected for maximizing project management effectiveness? Who would like to handle that question?
I'll take it.
Thank you.
Well, they're really a fusion of both. In order to run an effective project, you need effective human resource management. And when you're interacting with a team, Toastmasters teaches you everything from delivery to content, and also to make your audience feel valued. And when they come to your team, you are sharing a project charter, you're sharing scope, you're sharing budget, and it's important to really get buy-in, right, from the very beginning with all of your stakeholders, including your project team. And Toastmasters teaches you things like gestures, eye contact, voice, and power of the pause. I call it POP. It's all about pacing your voice and driving yourself to have that impact on each one of your team members. And I think my time is up.
Does anyone have anything to add then?
Sure, I can build off of what Chuck mentioned. As project managers, and probably most professions, you're spending about 90% of your job and your life communicating. So the folks here at the table, and hopefully some of you in the room, the question we have to ask ourselves is, why shouldn't we invest percent of our time in terms of our personal training on communication? And so Toastmasters gives you that opportunity to exercise and build those muscles about how do you not just deliver a message, but what should you say, how should you say it, why is it important, and make sure that it has maximum impact. So as Chuck is wont to say, even if you come to our monthly chapter meetings, is Toastmasters is a laboratory. It's a chance for you to refine your skills or build your skills in a very safe environment. And I think as you progress through your career, or you're looking to enhance your career, Toastmasters gives you a terrific opportunity to build those skill sets and then ultimately translate that or carry that into the workplace. Because again, a lot of you probably are very skilled in the science of project management, but it's really the art that separates a lot of us as far as getting that edge or finding that winning edge as a project manager.
Thank you. Hey?
I would like to add on this is, how many of you doing Agile in here? Okay, so you definitely have the retrospective, you have the demo, right? When you see demo went south, when people give very negative feedback, how are you gonna save the day? Public speaking actually come into the place, including that project, including Toastmaster training, because in Toastmaster, every speech we have evaluation. Good speech, bad speech. Evaluator's job, like us as an agile coach or scrum master, when you see things went south, how can you maximize the value of that session instead of everybody got depressed of it? Is how can you do constructive feedback in a nice way, quick way, and respond fast? Therefore, I would say, if you want to maximize your value, be good at speaking and think quick and deliver well. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one point to add to what everyone's here shared so far. With project management, sometimes there are things that happen that are unplanned or beyond under control. We know them as scope creep. With Toastmasters, we have a section in each meeting which is called impromptu speaking, which is table topics, and it's basically an opportunity to address anything that comes your way in a fun, non-judgmental manner. So with Toastmasters, you'll have the opportunity to practice handling things on the fly and on the go, and when you translate that into your career, you'll be able to more effectively mitigate the issue.
Thank you. So Gretel? going your way. What are the attributes of a good speaker?
I would say the most important thing is effectiveness, and you need to be able to deliver the message that you want to communicate, but not only just in one direction. I would say in a facilitation way, in a way that you are listening, not only the words, but the body language of all the people that you want to give the message to. If you're in a meeting, you can see if somebody is looking in another direction, or the body position, the eyes, the legs, etc. It all tells us if they're engaged with the meeting, with what we're saying, and then we can include it and in the way that we are delivering. Sorry, it's a little bit scratchy. In the way that we are delivering the message. Another thing is, which is part of it, is listening. So be a good listener and be effective, because sometimes people think that Toastmasters is about just public speaking and presenting, which is not. It's just one of the multiple skills that you learn through this program, and that is listening. When the speakers finish the speeches, then there's a series of questions about the whole meeting, and that helps you to pay attention to detail. In a meeting, it might be about what the technique for this or for that was included in the speech, but in the workplace, it's a little bit more important. It's about what the client said, what this person that is part of the team that doesn't want to participate in a specific meeting is not saying. So I would just say, listen and be an effective communicator.
Thank you. Okay.
I think there's a saying everybody already
No, a saying, a good speech is like woman's skirts. You need to be short enough to get attention, but long enough to cover all important parts. A good speaker, a good project manager, is not talk really long, now, stop, blah, blah, blah. It's you cover all the important part. People are like, wow, this project manager is different. Come into my office, get the point down, get stuff done, leave me alone. I can do my job. So think about if you want to deliver a presentation, how long it take you to get to your point. That's why I like Toastmaster. They have speech for 5 to 7 minutes. No matter what you're gonna say 5 to 7 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So project management is much of a journey more than a destination. And many of you are working hard, looking at the studies, working hard. If you get the certification, some people take 2 or 3 times to get certified to the PMP test, Project Management Professional. And many of us, through our work or our different volunteer work, feel like we're really good speakers. So why Toastmasters? Now, the question I have for the panel, because a lot of these people were good speakers before they came to Toastmasters, how has Toastmasters changed the way of your public speaking?
Go ahead.
Toastmasters has changed the way of my public speaking because it has allowed me a chance to feel more free and more comfortable with sharing my thoughts and opinions, and being also more receptive to any type of feedback, be it constructive or critical. It has opened the doors of just being able to receive communication from others in different styles. For example, some people work better with jokes or short stories, others are more bullet points, but being able to see through what's being shared, to decipher the actual message, and also to be able to regurgitate it back, it has helped me be able to just grow more as a person. In addition to that, Toastmasters has been a great outlet to meet a bunch of different people that I would not in normal settings, such as at work or in my areas of interest, because it's such a dynamic group of people, and it's a great way to just get out there and meet other people, grow your career, learn new things, find different avenues, etc. And then there's also the leadership component. If a person may be interested in trying to advance or become a president, a secretary, sergeant at arms, or even a timer, those simple things to do in Toastmasters, they have more of a structured background to them that can translate over to a lot of other areas, even such as parenting, as a spouse, as a friend, as a communicator. So those are some of the ways that Toastmasters has helped me.
I'd like to add with Yolanda, she touched on two important things that I just want to emphasize. In project management, you need to be able to handle the tough conversations and to be able to take the bad news and really turn it to being a motivator rather than a stop, a block to project progress and goals. So from that perspective, Yolanda, I really echo what you said about it gives you that broader perspective to handle that form of communication. And there's so much. And when I first started my public speaking journey through Toastmasters, number one, I came through the door to the room, and I was welcomed by the friend of mine that invited me to a Toastmasters meeting. And by the end of the meeting and after the evaluations, I said, whoa, what did I get myself into? But he said, keep coming back, Chuck, keep coming back. So I kept coming back and put myself in those meetings to get those evaluations, those constructive evaluations, which Toastmasters provides. And over time, those butterflies fly away, and you can speak to in the same relaxed manner, one-on-one, in a group of 1-to-1, or 1-to-100, or 1-to-1,000, and feel the same way, ready to go with the skills of Toastmasters that we teach, and we'll touch on many of those this evening.
I think Chuck and Yolanda made some very good points. The one thing I will probably add to that is there's a term in today's society that we call emotional intelligence, and that's being able to have not just empathy or putting ourselves in the shoes of others, but also figuring out how we ourselves are communicating more effectively, more efficiently with others. So as far as Toastmasters goes, I think going through the exercise of going up on stage, performing an evaluation, or even performing one of the roles during the meetings gives you that sense of what is it like to connect as a speaker, as a listener, as an evaluator, and gives you a true sense of, again, how to holistically develop communication skills. So you're definitely more conscious of yourself, you're more conscious of your efforts, you're more conscious of your intentions between yourself and the audience. And as Chuck mentioned, the idea is for those who are perhaps a bit apprehensive or a bit fearful of coming on stage, with every repetition of coming on stage, you gain not just more confidence, but you also become more relaxed and you become one with the audience. And that's really the goal of Toastmasters, I think, is to have that large conversation, just like we're sitting here at this table and being able to deliver our message with you. We want to be able to have that shared experience and that shared understanding of what does it take to become not just effective project managers, but hopefully better people along the way. So definitely some life lessons that you can pick up at a Toastmasters club or a general meeting.
I want to interrupt everybody for a second. We talk about Toastmaster, but we do have a special guest here today, and please, Gaurav Shaker. Gaurav, we have been knowing each other for 5 years, and he actually is the district director and in charge of more than 4,000 members in the DFW area. And he has he's like a CEO for the Toastmasters in this area. So if you have any question, he will be the person you want to back in, and we would love to support. But thank you, God, for being here.
I just wanted to add something to Yolanda's point about being an excellent opportunity to do network. But this is not the type of network that you go and you want to sell yourself and impress people, or that you want to look if you're just searching for opportunities. This is a network that actually cares about you and they want to see you improve. And not only that, it's just a group of people that is as passionate about project management as you are. And you can see it because we meet on a Saturday morning, which is very precious, as you all know. And it's great because we all have breakfast before. But still, you can see the price of the time that is invaluable. and it's just full of energy, and you wouldn't expect less of a Saturday morning. So I would invite you to just join us on Saturday.
There's one point they hasn't touched. How many of you work with diverse team, or you have to work with diverse team? Okay, different country, different language, right? Different country, different accent. I actually can hear somebody's accent and she's from Thailand or he's from Turkey. Just because in Toastmaster, if you really want to learn how to understand other people's accent, just go to Toastmasters. It's very diverse group. As a project manager, sometimes the accent actually heavier through the phone. If you ever be on the phone with me, you probably like, man, what are you talking about? Talk slower. Can you help me understand you? In Toastmaster, I train myself in getting better. But for people who evaluate me, when I speak, they have to pay attention. And I improve myself, and the person who evaluate me learn and hear better too, from different diversity and different culture as well.
Thank you. So we talk about a Toastmasters meeting, and it really is composed of 3 different components, and it's best represented by the acronym PIE, P-I-E. We do prepared speeches. Typically, we do 3 to 5 speeches, and it goes through a ladder type approach for improvement. There's the I, the impromptu, your elevator speech, those difficult things, how to put words together when you don't know what to say. And last, and probably most important, the E part of PIE is the evaluation. Many of us make presentation, whether it be at work, school, or what have you, and you may not hear the feedback ever, and if you do, it may be 6 months later at your performance review. You have a very supportive group who will give you constructive feedback, and not only what you say, but how you say it. So that's a long entrance to a question, I know. So how does a new member go through the Toastmaster Club progress through gaining new public speaking skills? What does a new Toastmaster have to do?
Take that one. As far as a new member is concerned, I think the first step really is to get on stage. The first speech that any new member does is what we call the icebreaker. And so for those who are familiar with Toastmaster, I think we have a program called Pathways, and Pathways is designed to lead you through the progressions of developing a certain skill set that you're interested in, be it leadership, be it innovation, be it planning. And so taking that first step really is raising your hand, being proactive in meeting and saying, I want to do my icebreaker. And the icebreaker really is a 4 to 6 minute speech about who you are, what's your background, and how did you come into this room today, and telling us your story. And a lot of folks, if anything, are very comfortable telling their story. It's their facts, it's their story, it's their life, and they should be able to organize that in a way that the audience can relate to and ultimately be comfortable with. And so hopefully that's your first step. And then the next step for any new member of Toastmasters is to get familiar with all the roles of the meeting, get to know the officers, and as Grettel said, really engage in the community and really understand that it's more than just public speaking, it's more than just leadership. It is a community that you can make yourself better. You can improve not just your profession, but also your life, and just really buying into it. So I think those are some important steps for any new member to be aware of as they enter the journey of Toastmasters.
To Mohun's point, sorry, Greg, did you want to? Okay. To Mohun's point, I wanted to add that a new member should seek or be open to mentorship. Typically in Toastmasters clubs, that new member is assigned a mentor who's done their icebreaker or done five to 10 speeches that can kind of guide them throughout the process, answer any questions that they may have, maybe give some tips on techniques to prepare for their speech, his or her speech, or also even just speech ideas. Sometimes their new members are presented with speaking on something they're not familiar with. For example, it may be vocal variety, or using a prop, or telling a longer story that's longer than 5 to 7 minutes, because some are, but that person will be paired up with a mentor, and they'll be able to grow in an easier fashion outside of the club, something that's a little bit more one-on-one and connected.
I just wanted to add that sometimes you go to an interview and the first question that they ask is, tell me something about yourself, which is exactly what the icebreaker is about. So this gives you an opportunity to prepare how you want to talk about yourself, how you want to structure the ideas and the sequence of events. It's a wonderful opportunity even for interviews.
And the icebreaker also provides an opportunity for the club to get to know you, what type of goals you have, about your family, your career, just from a fun and just safe environment, so that we, meaning fellow club members, can help you achieve your individual goals. It's a two-way street, and that's why we have everything from prepared speeches to impromptu speeches to evaluations. The whole package comes together in a meeting, and it's just a delight.
My advice for all the project manager, to listen. Because we speak a lot at work, we think we are good at speaking. Speaking doesn't mean you are good at speaking. You can speak better English, doesn't mean you can be good on the stage when you do presentation. We have a lot of project managers, maybe when they speak, they have weird body language. They will do this. Get a hand down the pocket. They will touch their hair when they speak. They don't know. Did you look at yourself when you speak? You don't, because we don't have mirror when we do presentation. But we do have evaluator. Be ready to listen. Listen to what they see when you are doing the presentation. That's, I think, for the beginner, listen and willing to receive. Thank you.
We now have David in our meetings who is recording all speeches, and that's the best feedback you can get, just see yourself.
So now we're at the part of the meeting, we're going to open it up to the floor. So if you all have any questions, because you heard a lot of my questions, are there any specific questions you would like to ask of the panel? Raise your hand and I'll bring the microphone.
So this is for any of you. Can you relate the most memorable incident that you think because of Toastmasters you did something different at home or at work, and serve as an example, open your eyes to how powerful this thing is for you?
Sorry for interrupting. Do you mind to say
Who you are, so at least we know who we are talking to. If you don't, I don't mind you stand out to tell people who you are.
Good evening, my name is Bharat Sundar. I'm PMP, part of the local Dallas chapter as well. I work for SAP as a project manager.
Hey, Garth, how are you? So the question that you had was, what's the most memorable incident or what's maybe one of the key takeaways that you've had at a Toastmasters meet that made you more aware of how to handle something more effectively in life and work? Is that the question?
Or where you did something in the real world,
Mhm.
which you later on realized,
Okay.
because of my Toastmasters training, I could handle this different situation.
Sure. Yeah, as far as work is concerned, there was definitely a project where I came upon some very challenging stakeholders as far as personalities and really trying to understand them. And I think based on a meeting I had not short after that challenging conversation, I really started to pay more attention to nonverbal language, right? So the body language, trying to understand them a little bit differently. They had certain inflections in their voice that stress certain words. So when you go to a Toastmasters meeting, you certainly place more of an emphasis on those subtle cues that you just normally wouldn't notice in a day-to-day meeting. And so I think that recognition and being able to apply it in the next setting where I could then sort of turn around that relationship and make it a more successful and more productive one is something I have taken away from Toastmasters.
What other question do we have? People fear public speaking more than they do death. right?
Can I tap on that question? I didn't want to just limit us public speaking as one skill set at work. How about before work? My current job actually was, my past two jobs was, some people from Toastmasters make an introduction. The reason is the presentation I give to at the club, the presentation style I have to, and people say, I think you may be really good fit on this. Then they make an introduction for my next career opportunity. As a project manager, you have to know who you are and you have to keep growing yourself. Then somebody will see you. You need to be seen. Otherwise, of course, we can always go back to the resume, all the hard work. Or be a good public speaker. Then you present well, then people make an introduction for you. Just my personal opinion.
One of the things that Toastmasters gave me the confidence is to speak to senior leaders of a company and a very top-level executives from all different areas, finance, marketing, operations, and it gives you that confidence to facilitate a meeting at that level in an organization. And I had the opportunity, probably midway through my Toastmasters journey, to lead a cross-functional team between the U.S. and Canada. And I was interacting with our CEO of our business in Canada, and I had to say, well, who's your finance, who's your marketing? And this was just, it gave me the confidence to step out of my normal, possibly introvert background, and step out of the comfort zone and run and facilitate a meeting toward a project objective. And at the end of the project, when we closed it, we had a celebration, and to get positive feedback from those functional leaders made the world to me, because this was a whole new way of attack, way of functioning in a more effective manner with top leadership. And so that from that regard, that's what Toastmasters has brought to the table for me, and it can for you.
What questions we have? Raise your hand, I'll bring you the microphone.
Hey, David.
Oh, sorry.
When David worked there,
David worked over to there. Toastmaster has a role called tabletop master. That means you have to ask questions. Your role at that meeting is to ask questions to others.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Felix Vargas. I'm a project manager and a general manager of a small company, privately owned company that does critical communication systems implementation. So the question is for Ms. Molina. So you spoke about effective listeners. What are the characteristics of an effective listener?
Well, I would say, first of all, like I mentioned, body language. Most of the message that we want to give, let me see here, I'm using my hands, are given through non-verbal communication. And sometimes body language can contradict or emphasize what you're going to say. And so as a listener, I pay a lot of attention to body language of people, to the gestures, to if they are crossing the leg, let's say towards jog, it's because I am agreeing with jog, or if I have an coworker and I just pay attention to how they're talking on the phone, if they make a big gap between the elbow and the bodies because they're very extroverted, etc. There are a lot of different cues that you can learn through Toastmasters. And I said listening because I think that as communicators, we need to facilitate more than just speak as project managers, because we need to integrate what the whole team has to say. So I would say, yes, I would say body language would be the best way to listen. Just pay attention to the details, and most of all, close your mouth so you can listen. That's why we have 2 ears and one mouth, so we can actually absorb what they want to say. And if there's a person that is kind of shy, go and approach maybe before or during the break in the meeting and ask them. Sometimes they just don't want to volunteer the information in front of everybody. So approach that personal contact is another way to be a good listener.
And we also practice this at PMI Dallas Toastmasters. We have actually a role called a listener. And toward the end of the meeting, that listener presents 2 to 6 questions to the audience, factual questions related to the prepared speeches, and how we test ourselves in our remembrance of those important statistics that are brought up, or important messages or important points or examples.
Oh, I wanted to add to what they said about listening. With listening better, that kind of bridges the communication gap between 2 parties or different parties to find some type of level of common ground. So as you mentioned, you know, you have your own company. I heard that and it spoke to me and it sparked an interest. You said something was like critical. I heard that and it stood out to me, and now I'm like, oh, well, maybe we could follow up and converse about that later, and it kind of puts you outside of just the formal context of listening to actually bridging that gap and knowing that person just a little bit better. And over time, that helps in both ways. So that's another point.
I'm not in that level, but a really good listener can really hear the unanswered question. The question behind the word we use. We have about 30 people here. Each of us have different background. We have different point of the view, how we see life, how we see project, how we see failure. Sometimes I think the best project manager not only good at speaking, but can receive a point of view because people, the choice of a word, the body language, in the emotion, in the voice, the vocal variety, how they passionate about, how they passive aggressive about specific topic, then that is a key successor for when project is in danger. A good listener can hear something unspoken.
I think we had a question.
Another question?
Good evening. I'm Alex Sampson, project manager at Parkland Hospital. So I wanted to follow up on the non-verbal communication question. Most of our meetings we're finding to be over WebEx or Skype. So how would those body language cues or the cues that you alluded to translate?
Hey Alex, thanks for your question. As far as WebEx is concerned, I think what's been mentioned here is really paying attention and being more conscious of your voice as well as the audience's voice. For example, if you have a business lead that is stressing certain things, very simple example, you know that those are the priorities in her mind or his mind. On the other hand, silence is sometimes very golden. It can be very informative. So if you hear some drawn out silences, it may be an uncomfortable experience. On the other hand, you don't know if your stakeholder truly is analyzing the situation and trying to reflect on the answer before one is provided. And so I think from your perspective, when you are on a WebEx or a conference call, it's about recognizing and giving yourself an opportunity to get to know that person a little bit better one-on-one. The foundation of our profession, if not most professions, is trust. And it's going to give you, I think, an opportunity to have more one-on-one discussions, because certainly as I'm actually entering a new project right now, I know the first thing that I have to do is build trust with my stakeholders, and I have to know their communication preferences and what they like to hear and don't like to hear. So as far as your particular work, I don't know if you have people scattered across the globe or around the nation that may make that challenging, but I think you're going to have to, it definitely gives you an opportunity to connect a little little bit more deeply with those people. But as far as having to feel that routine day after day, I think you definitely have to look for those cues and understand silences versus people who may talk very quickly, which in case may be a point that they may not know as much as they think. And so I think you have to be very conscious of all that. So hopefully that answers your question.
I wanted to add, since that was a question about the WebEx mentions, there are some Toastmasters clubs that do allow speakers to submit their speeches via, electronically, or just to join the meeting live. So if that's something that you may be interested in, you can go on Toastmasters.org, click on the Find a Club, and click on Virtual, and it'll give you all the different clubs and topics and locations that allow that. So if it's something that you're interested in, even in Toastmasters, there's a seat for you.
And also, we practice everything around voice. Pauses, pitch, high, rep, slow down if we need to, and most importantly, eliminate ahs and ums and filler words in even the WebEx or any non-visual form of communication. Eliminate all those filler words. I mean, how many times you hear a radio announcer or a broadcaster say and ah? Toastmasters teaches us to get rid of those. Every word means something. And as Mohun and Yolanda bring up, that Yolanda mentioned that there are clubs out there that focus on WebEx. From Mohun's point, I just use an on, so they'll dig me with that. But the point is, what we do in the visual aspect of actually being in the moment, being in the presence of a Toastmaster meeting, we learn these skills and we actually clink a cup or something in the room if you say or we have a clicker that makes a noise. And believe it or not, having been zinged quite a few times, whenever I tend to say the word I remember that little voice in the back of my head saying, oh, I'm going to get clicked for that. And it focuses on eliminating those redundant words. And from just a WebEx, you can have a better understanding of a person's tonality, the person's pacing, if they're excited, and also if they emphasize something that's positive, you can pick up on that and be more positive in your team meeting via WebEx, perhaps.
I'll just add one more, hopefully, point to your question, which is all the information you collect, the nonverbal information you collect over a WebEx, really what it points to you, and again, most of the fingers point towards us as far as making sure projects are successful, is the art of facilitating the meeting. Meaning, do you have a successful agenda in place? Have you talked it out with your stakeholders in advance? And have you done your homework, in short, prior to going into that meeting? And I think as you are getting to know a new team, for example, you're going to start learning that. So that's just part, I think, of the forming and the storming process, part of team development. So hopefully, as you start to get through those group norms, what makes you successful, maybe not as successful, listening to those nonverbal cues will help inform your agendas, will inform your purpose, your intention, and make you a better speaker and a better presenter and a better, hopefully, listener as you go forward.
What other questions do we have?
Since David's working, I'm just saying, I heard one person got a job just because she asked a really good question during her interview. So it's a practice for you.
I want to ask a follow-up question to Yolanda, and maybe the others too, about those who can't physically attend Toastmasters Club for any reason. They're traveling every week, they can't give up their weekends, so what options are available, and are they as good if they're virtual as in-person interaction?
That's a great question. Personally, I like the presence of being in the physical, but if there's not the opportunity to do that, there is the chance to do it via WebEx or online. I even visited a club that had a user or a member submit their speech. It was complete audio. They didn't have the video for that time. And it was right along with their speech, which was vocal variety. So although we didn't have the chance to give that person feedback or an evaluation on their body language, we were able to listen more closely to their tone, their voice, their cadence, and those other things that stood out. So I'm sure we've all heard, if you lose one thing, it makes the other things more sharper, more heightened. So in that case, that's a perfect opportunity to be able to say, do I need to slow down more? Do I need to speak a little louder? Do I need to make some more points more poignant? Things of that nature. So there's still a chance to learn, advance, and grow even without the opportunity to be physically in person. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think to Yolanda's point, you're going to have to pay more attention to your voice if you're going to go through the virtual option. I think we don't have Goro here in the room right now. I'm sure. Well, I think the question is, I think there are some virtual opportunities to attend Toastmasters meetings. So there are some settings that you can perform in and provide or at least present prepared speeches. You're going to have to pay more attention to your voice though. You're going to have to be more aware because you don't have that immediate feedback that you would have in an in-person meeting. So if you took that option, are you committed to that path? I think that's really the question you have to ask yourself.
Question for everyone. How many Toastmaster club do you think may be in this 30 miles radius or 40-mile radius? Let's just play it again. How many club do you think that may be? Do you think 30 miles from here to Plano, to McKinney, to Richardson, Dallas, not to Irving, not Fort Worth, just whatever city I just say, Coppell's not ours. Everything a little bit further. What is that? Melissa, okay, to Oklahoma, to Louisiana. How many clubs? 30 clubs plus. You don't think that's a 30 more? If you think it's 30 more, okay, 100, 150, 180, 200. Okay, we have two winners. Actually, there are about 200 clubs in District 50. Just by UTD have 3. Texas Instruments have 2. Southwest Airlines, they have big Toastmaster club. And their meeting was amazing. They even fly the international world champion to their club meeting because they have tickets. I envy them. I was there. So they are about 200, last I checked, 206. Then District 25 is in Fort Worth area. So Fort Worth, Arlington, that's another district. I don't know their number, but just by District 50, there are more than 200 clubs. Everybody have the chance, and you cannot do Monday, you can find Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. My club meet twice a month on Sunday. P&I Dallas Club meet once a month, the third Saturday. Once a month for 3 hours. You say you committed to your skill in public speaking in presentation, but you don't have 3 hours per month? I see the commitment. That is the difference. I would say that's a different thing for everyone. Then some people even join 2 or multiple clubs like me. I'm a Toastmaster junkie before I'm pregnant. Can I say junkie? That's a good word in English, right? I'm a Toastmaster enthusiastic.
What other questions do we have?
My name is Mark Williams. I'm a CEO of a startup company dealing with blockchain. I'm also a PMP as well, and also a Toastmaster. And I want to congratulate you on having a very distinguished panel here and highly intelligent. I wish I would have went to the last Toastmaster meeting. Just listening to you guys. But and you all seem very successful in knowing what you do, but I want to know, can you name one or two events when you were communicating something and the team or the person walked away with a totally different idea, a totally different perspective, and go, wait, I didn't say that. How? And then you figure out how you totally miscommunicated. Like, I know you've been speaking about success here, but I want to know a little bit about, wait a minute, what went wrong, something that totally, went off track in terms of communication. Like, you maybe didn't figure it out at the time, but maybe came back, the next staff report was totally messed up, or, nobody knew what was going on.
So as far as failures are concerned, or let's say, opportunities for learning, thinking about 5 years ago, I was involved with a pretty high-profile project on essentially setting up some of our, Chuck and I work for a health insurance company in Texas, but we had a project where we had to set up a client that was pretty high-profile. And in short, we mishandled how that client wanted to report on certain outcomes. And then outcomes meaning health outcomes. And we thought we heard one thing and we interpreted it one way, and the client was not very happy because if we did not report these health outcomes the right way, we were on the hook for giving them money back as part of the contract. And as part of the customer recovery process, we definitely had to essentially bite our teeth a little bit and take that flack for about a couple of minutes. But what it did do, though, is it gave us a pause to say, how do we do service recovery better? How do we reestablish that relationship? And I think what it does, the key takeaway for me, Marv, is positive intent. Everything that we try to do with the customer is based off a positive note, and Chuck mentioned it earlier. So I think thinking through that and thinking how to recover the relationship and say, hey, we totally dropped the ball here, but here's what we're doing moving forward to make sure that there are no other misunderstandings. But that took some time. It was something where we had spent a couple of months building that relationship, and then it took another 2-3 weeks just rebuilding that and getting their trust back. So that's something where you definitely focus a lot harder on customer recovery than you normally would. So that's something that I can at least recall. I mean, Toastmasters for sure helps you, again, become more conscious of that. And I think as you pay attention to your stakeholders and your customers, you start to say, oh wow, you know what? It's not what they said, it's what they didn't say. And you have to add it up. It's a puzzle sometimes, and it's not easily apparent to you to say, oh yeah, well, gosh, we totally messed that one up. No, you have to start adding up some dots and connecting the dots and figure out what that picture looks like. So that's an example.
I always share a story because I didn't tell a story well. I was leading a project that is about $8 million, but I was stuck with one department, and that department just really challenged for everything I proposed. I have no idea. Everybody tell me, May, get rid of them. We don't bring fiber to their site. Let's cut them off. They have no internet. Fine. At that point, I don't have a material for my story. So I talked to my boss. My boss gave me a little bit background. Then I realized that is a great story can tell. We are building fiber, and that fiber going to the park and recreation. When everything goes to the park and recreation, you have to go through something called Chapter 26. We have one little green line, just one. We not even go to the major part, just one side of green line. Then, because of that, we need to go to 4 months delay for multiple council approval. This is a city, right? Park director actually told my boss this story, and my boss referred it back. The reason they are so cautious is because one time, it's a story of butterfly. One time they want to build a bike track in the park area for everybody who want to ride a bike, can enjoy that beautiful view. But one day they receive a complaint and they make a they meet with a citizen. The citizen bring a stack of information saying you need to stop that $1 million project for the bike track. Then they say, why? Because the reason is that track touched an area for a butterfly. That butterfly very unique. That's a flower butterfly attracted to. Without you figure out how can have that butterfly survive and not interrupt the butterfly environment, I will bury you with a paper with 30 agents on this list. Do you build a track on that and touch that butterfly, or you let go? If you are the project manager, did you build a track? Okay, give me a yes or no. Yes? No. Butterfly? No butterfly. For a couple $1 million project can benefit 180,000 people. Everybody can use. But butterfly. Good. Everybody, you have some. Butterfly or no butterfly? They cancel the project. That track never exists. After I tell people the butterfly story and they understand why, because that is so crucial for environmental, for everything, and that chapter 26 there for a reason. I did not tell the story well, so my project was stuck for a month and two just by meeting over meeting because everybody tried to convince that department. Your process is not necessary. But that department is not budge. But after I told you, do you want a butterfly or you don't want a butterfly? And now everybody joke. Do we need butterfly or no butterfly? Anybody complain about a butterfly? That was the story. If you are the project manager, can you tell a good story? I make a lot of mistakes by not telling a good story. And I'm still learning. And your story, how many of you eat hamburger, even veggie burger? Okay? Do you like hamburger without bun? Do you like hamburger without your patty, the meat patty, it's so juicy? Do you like your hamburger without lettuce, or tomato, or no mayonnaise? Your story can need to be like hamburger too. You have the opening, and you have your meat, and you have your closing. So that's my lesson learned. Sometimes when I tell a story, I don't have a good opening, I don't have a good body, and I don't have a good closing. So tell a good story, and my mistake is my project got delayed, and I learned a good story, boost up my body and material. Then that project's on track. I don't need to touch the butterfly.
Yeah, well, I can't match that story, but as far as storytelling is concerned, I think we all have to be aware of our audience, and sometimes we're balancing the interests of many audiences, whether it's in life or in work. And Toastmasters, at least, I think, makes you more conscious of your messaging and figuring out, do you really own your message? Does it reflect you? Does it reflect the audience? And getting that alignment can be so challenging when you're starting off with Toastmasters. But as you come up to the stage, as you give evaluations, as you continue to serve in the different roles in the meeting, you'll get better at it. It's pure repetition. And everyone that you see here at the table today, whether it's May or Gretel or Chuck or Yolanda, they've gone up to the stage and they've had the courage to keep going at it, getting better at their craft, getting better at speaking. And I've seen some great progress made, especially somebody like Gretel. She came up to the stage a few years ago, and from there she actually presented for one of our PMI Dallas dinner meetings. She's now serving as an officer, and she's now helping really one of our new kind of emerging populations in the club, which is, I think, mostly people from Latin America. And we've seen a big rise in that, and Gretel's been a big part of the success in us building those bridges with this newfound audience. There's definitely some connections to understanding your audience, understanding how to message to that audience so you can engage them from day one. And again, that's something I think we all have to be conscious of as far as communicating and owning our messages.
It does feel wonderful to be able to help whoever it's just a volunteering opportunity, and to be able to serve as a leader.
You have a question here? Just-
Good evening, Austin. My name is Andrea, and I'm a government analyst. I'm also a fellow Toastmaster. And the synopsis for the forum tonight mentioned that we would receive some tips and tricks on how to reduce tension in the room. And I would like to hear from you guys based on your experiences, either on the job or in Toastmasters, and maybe even see some of those tips and tricks in action. I know there's some just-in-time ways to mediate some tension in a room. The agency I work for, there's constant tension applied. I know that we can all probably relate to that, so I'd really like to see that part of the forum and see what kind of tips you guys have for us in that subject.
Well, yeah, I've been fortunate to be part of a Toastmaster club that had 4 evaluators for every speaker. And some of the techniques we use is we play on ourselves or something, make jokes about how we look. We know we're so conscious up in the front of the room and so forth. So, even though I used to have hair, I don't have hair anymore for this reason or that reason. I mean, those type of things you look out for, and you just try to make light of everything, or you start off with a story, some sort of an icebreaker type of story that you're that you may be familiar with, and just quick 1 minute or 2 minute story to break the ice, which is what we try to do when we were first joining the Toastmaster Club, because there's so many components coming at us. We're not sure what to do, and we want to succeed, but we recognize it's just a practice and safe environment. But direct answer to your question, it's not often easy. If that tension is just, you can just cut it with a knife. It's not easy. So you just have to make light of it and try to build trust in your own presentation and just your own confidence and Toastmasters helps relieve your butterflies so that you don't come up naturally shaking or just because the nerves are getting the best of yourself. But those are just my initial thoughts.
I have something to add. One thing that I've noticed that does help ease the tension a little bit is to fail forward, fail fast. Get it out the way. So that way, whoever's next, you've already gotten it out the way. Meaning, whatever ideas you have to share, as you mentioned, using comedy, something that's universal, something everyone has experienced, be it traffic or a delicious breakfast or something that's relatable, just getting it out there. And also being open and vulnerable, even if that means sharing something about yourself to the audience or to your peers or group that they can relate to and say, okay, I respect that person just a smidge more because of that. So that's one thing that I've found to ease tension. And then also just being honest. People can sense fakeness and phoniness from a mile away, but just being open and true to who you are, being a genuine person, that shines through, and people can see, hey, at least this person is trying to put themselves out there. They're trying to advance our group, trying to get whatever we came here to do, trying to get that task accomplished and get it done effectively.
In my case, I would say base structure and have an agenda, follow the agenda. There's nothing that makes me more stressed than to be in a meeting and this is what we came here to talk about, and then X and Y and Z are happening, but we're not accomplishing. So for a lot of people, especially project managers or leaders, that can be pretty stressful. So be very organized, very professional on your meetings. And then I would say use a parking lot. Parking lots are wonderful. If people start going off topic, okay, let's say May, okay, I see that you want to talk about the facilities, etc., arrangements. Okay, that's not exactly according to, it doesn't go with our finances meeting, but let me put it on the parking lot and we're going to address it or at least talk about it at the end of the meeting and see who can help you with this specific problem. So people feel like they are being listened to, and we are addressing all the needs, but not specifically going off the rails. And finally, I would say use facilitation techniques. You probably have seen a lot of them in Toastmasters meetings. Like if people start going on the same topic. You have specific phrases that you can use to draw their attention. Like, okay, let's give me a title for all of that you said, so they stop it. Or the one that doesn't want to participate, or people are actually start to have like conflictive comments towards each other, and maybe you can go in the middle and break eye contact. That kind of helps in to ease attention. There are several techniques, so I would go into mostly facilitation to break the tension in meetings.
Yeah, so as far as government work is concerned, I can't speak from personal experience. I mean, Chuck, I think you were recently on a government-based project. To me, it's all about relationships. I think it's going back to your business sponsor, your IT sponsor, whoever happens to be the champion of that project, and really working with them one-on-one before you start talking to a broader audience. So if you're in that position, I would suggest you do that first. However, if you are just a participant in that process, I think what you can do is go offline and talk to some of maybe your key stakeholders and just build those relationships first and make sure that you are gaining trust. In other words, it's simply having a cup of coffee or having lunch or breakfast and saying, hey, you know, this is something about me, something about you, and just that very simple exercise can hopefully get rid of some of the anxiety. The one thing you want to do is hopefully, if you can hopefully not fake it too much, is at least wear a smile on your face. Show them that you're someone that can be approachable. I think a lot of times there's a recognition that these are high stakes. We all base our livelihoods off of this particular project or this particular effort. However, we're here to see each other succeed. I don't think anybody comes into this conversation saying we're here to fail, like, oh God, you know, I'm falling out of a plane. No, I don't think it's that type of situation. So as long as you come to that recognition, and then talk about what is it that you want from this project. What are your needs? Where do you think some gaps are? And getting all that documented and going around the table. So again, depending on your position, depending on your where you stand in the project, I think you're going to have to ask yourself those questions and hopefully become an agent of change for the better in your project.
And I'd like to add what Gretel said. I've had successful experience when I've had structure and really prepare your facilitation, especially in a government environment. You want to make sure you've got everything laid out, everything factored in terms of your agenda, and just preparedness and feeling as if you've got that preparation and you're just ready to move.
They have really good suggestion, but what I have is, where's the stressor? The stressor is people don't like each other, personality conflict, or people have different budget conflict, resource conflict, people get on the stage not in the same page. Because most of the project, we want project to be successful. Then why it becomes stressful or there's a tension? My takeaway, my 2 cents is, first, always have sense of humor. The good sense of humor, in Toastmaster, we have something called pocket speech. I have pocket joke. Even that is not, always joke on yourself, never joke on somebody else. For example, somebody make a mistake, it's nobody gonna die, but that somebody have the wrong number on the budget sheet. Then people like scared or got mad at each other, and I said, hey, move over, I'm Asian, even I'm not really good at math, but let me look at it. It's just a small joke for yourself, that if you willing to have some pocket joke in your pocket when things happen, when people are really dry, I will say, hey, my name is May, but I was born in April. That is my pocket joke. I'm really born in April and my name is NEI, but when people say, hey, I don't know why my mom has good sense of humor. That is because we have the trust. Sometimes I know what joke, what button I can push. Second advice is, always compliment on somebody do really well. In evaluation, the hardest part is not point out what people do wrong. The hardest part is you have somebody who's a horrible speaker because they are started. Your job is not tell them you did really bad, really bad, really bad. Your job as an evaluator is point out what they do really well so they can move to the next level. So always compliment on somebody else, and you can always find one thing they do really well. You can say, May, you speak really slow. I see the improvement of the speed when you speak in English, so I can understand better. Even I have a lot of grammatical mistakes, thank you for forgive me, because they know, everybody know when they don't do well. But if you highlight one thing they don't even think they do well, you will help them to say, wow, she really pay attention to me. And third is be generous. Be generous at the meeting. If you have the conference call, you have the meeting, be generous at others. Sometimes not just people do agile. Every single project manager should be a servant leader. If you are generous to your team will generous to you. I have a stakeholder tell me, I don't like people. I'm grumpy because that's who I am. I said, that's fine. Every time before the meeting, I commit my time. Come in, if we have meeting at 9 o'clock, I will be here at 8:50. Then when you show up first thing before everybody arrives, I tell you a bad joke. He said yes. We become friends. He doesn't care about anybody else. He's a typical hardcore programmer. A good developer, awesome. He doesn't like to talk to anybody. And I say, if I have a bad joke, can you try not to smile? He actually smiled. And the final thing, not advise everybody to use, especially all my coworkers before working at American Heart Association. As a project manager, I have a fountain of chips and candy in my cubicle, and sometimes donuts. So I bribe people with food.
Yeah, I see May has her PMP exam prep book with her this evening. I think one of the things that can be valuable is, and hopefully I have this artifact right, is a stakeholder register, or what we call stakeholder analysis or mapping profiling. As you get to know your team, you're going to find out what their likes, their dislikes, their preferences are going to be. And I think as far as leading high-stakes projects or things where you have a lot of regulation, a lot of compliance, you're going to want to go back to that and fall back on that document more often than not, just to make sure that you're messaging it right and you're approaching that person right. As much as I love a good sense of humor, I think there are some people who just don't see the world that way. And you're going to have to recognize and take the temperature of that room or that individual very carefully. And sometimes you have to do what's called mirroring, which is you have to project their body language or their verbal intonations to make sure that you're connecting with them. It's not easy. I prefer to talk very casually, and I'd like to just make sure it's very businesslike but casual. On the other hand, there are just some people who are just super tense all the time, and that's the way they love to operate. So you're just going to have to figure out when you can play the humor card at the right time, if you can. But again, you're going to have to, go back to your stakeholder register and figure out who's who and those likes and preferences as far as making you and them successful.
One other thing I would add to help ease tensions is just the follow-up or the bridge. So we've talked a lot about critique or evaluating or feedback, but just building that bridge. In Toastmasters, we have what we call the 3-2-1, where it's you list 3 things that you like that was provided in the course of the conversation or the speech or the meeting, and then you give 2 things that maybe would help a little bit more or that you would have liked to have seen. And then finally, the 1 is the thing that really, one gem you walked away with, one thing you loved or really wowed you or stood out with you. And just giving that person that little bit of feedback or that group, that builds that bridge for the next time. So although there still may be some tension, it's not as much. It's a little bit more alleviated. So just remember that 3-2-1 and try to implement that. I've seen it help.
Okay, we have time for one more question. For each panelist, what is the one takeaway you want your audience to take away to remember this panel discussion? And try to keep it brief, please. Let's start with Yolanda.
One thing that I would like everybody to try to remember tonight is just get out there. Be yourself. Nothing to lose, possibly everything to gain. If you're interested in Toastmasters, attend the meeting, speak up, meet with us or anybody else reach out. But what's the worst that could happen? You just might not get any information, but the best thing that could happen, it may just be your next avenue to grow yourself as a person, as an employee, as a leader, as a CEO, as a mother, wife, husband, father. Doesn't matter. Just get out there and follow your dream.
I think the one message, maybe I'm paraphrasing what Yolanda said, which is, how good do you want to be? How good do you want to be as a communicator, as a leader, as a person, as a professional? And are you willing to look to opportunities such as Toastmasters to seek that improvement? And if you're willing to make a commitment to that, if you're willing to put time into it and really taking time not just to participate, but also reflect on that journey, I think you're going to be better off for it. It's a question of, again, what's a priority to you? And I hope today, or at least this evening, you at least got a chance to hear some stories that will hopefully move you in that direction.
I would say improve yourself. If you are feeling butterflies when you go into a meeting to present, to talk to a client, then there's an opportunity for you to get those butterflies out of the way. And if you are an amazing speaker and you are confident and you just say, I just kill at it, well then still come to our club, because there's a lot of people that are not as good as you are. We can use your input and you could mentor people, and I'm sure it's going to make you feel like a wonderful person. It's a service, and we are all a community, and we're here to help each other. So come anyway.
Come join us. Third Saturday of every month, we meet at the Courtyard Marriott in Plano, right off the tollway. And there's a buffet breakfast, and the meeting starts promptly at 9 o'clock in the morning. It ends at 11 o'clock with a break in between. We often start at 8:30 with networking and allow us time to enjoy the good food over there. And it's $20 in. We are a closed club. You need to be a member of PMI Dallas to become a member. But come over and check us out and experience it for yourself.
Still yours. My takeaway is listen. How is that? Listen, ask questions, then speak. And don't speak, ask question, then listen. Because if you do reverse order, it will be really bad for your project, your team, and sometimes maybe you ruin your career in different way because you don't listen, ask question, and speak.
Thank you very much, panel. Just one last commercial. We do have a LinkedIn page, and you can go to your network. You can connect to PMI Dallas.
Let me help you.
Okay, please.
Okay, so everybody here learning something, and another benefit is you spend your time right over here. Let's connect. If you think we do a good job, let us know. 3, 2, 1, right? If you think something we can improve upon, let us know. If you have the better tips, let us know. Then next time when we have something situation like this, we have better story and better tip to others. So right now, you just need to turn your LinkedIn. That's a step-by-step. You will find my network and find a little person plus sign and turn on your Find Nearby. Everybody who turn this feature on can connect to everybody who turn on here. See, I see Grettel. Then you can just add people from that side. So we just leave 5 minutes. If you want to connect, feel free. If you don't, that's fine. It's okay. It's optional.
Any other final thoughts before we conclude? Well, thank you very much for all attending, and have a pleasant evening.